Hello! Today I'm going to make some custom colored Rollicon dice for someone I know, and I thought I would bring you along and show you a little behind the scenes on how I do it. So what do we need to make resin dice? Well, first of all, for me, I'm going to have this tray, and this is simply to protect my work surface. I don't want to mess up my table here, so that's the only reason that's there for. If you have a workbench, that's good enough too. Of course, you will need resin, and I'm using magic resin. I really like it. It's a two-part by volume resin, so I don't have to worry about measuring or having a scale or anything like that. It's equal parts, so I don't have to do math, and a 24-hour cure, and it cures really clear. It's really nice. Now, if you don't want clear dice, you will need something to color the dice, and one option is the mica powders, and that's nice. It gives it a little pearlescence as well. There's also these. I've got these. These are glow-in-the-dark powders. So there's a bunch of different colors. There's blue and pink, and there's orange over here. Yeah. So those are kind of cool. I'm not going to use either of those for these particular dice. What I am going to use is some alcohol ink. I haven't used this particular brand of alcohol ink, so we're going to get to learn how that works together. Of course, you will need something to mix and measure everything in, so I've got this little silicone cup here, which is nice. It's got gradations on it, I can measure right into it, and a nice little pour spout to make it easy to pour. And of course, the dreaded popsicle stick to stir with. Rubber glove or latex gloves are always good to have. I guess these are actually nitrile gloves, but gloves are good to have. Resin is pretty safe to work with, but it's never a bad habit to get into to wear gloves. Wear your protective equipment, even if just to make cleanup easier. And of course, you're going to need the molds, and these are molds I made just in little Dixie cup type things, disposable cups. And there's the 20, the 12, the 2 10s, the 8, the 6, and of course the 4. And that's pretty much all we're going to need. Also a pressure pot, but I will explain that and show that later. But for now, I'm going to bring in the camera closer, and I'm going to show you how we do it. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is find out how much resin you're going to need. So what I do is I will take the dice, and I will put all of them in a beaker of water, fill it up to 100 milliliters, take out the dice, and then read how much I've got left, and that will tell me how much resin I need. Then I add a little bit of extra for the sprues. So I've already done that, and these dice will take, or these molds will take a little more than 50 milliliters, so I'm going to measure 60 milliliters and use that. Why 60? It's always good to have a little bit extra, so you're not remixing if you have to. And the other reason is that my little cup here, the gradations are in 10 millimeter increments. So instead of guessing at 25 and then going to 50, I'll just do 30 and 30, and it's much easier. So let's do that. So I've got my part A here, and I'm just going to pour it in. And it's a little bit tricky because it's a clear liquid, and I'm trying to measure in a translucent cup. But the lights here are pretty good, so I can see those marks and the line of resin. Also, this resin is pretty good at bubbles and pouring. These are just at room temperature, and you can see how easy they are to pour. And a little more. There we go, 60. One thing you want to do is make sure you put the part B cap, onto part B. You don't want to put part A cap onto part B, because then it will cure on top of your bottle. And now the mixing part. So this, you just mix it up. You want to make sure you get it really mixed, because if you don't, you will end up with a poorly cured section. And what I like to do is I go back and forth across the bottom, and then I'll go back and forth across the bottom the other way, making sure to scrape the bottom. Then I'll scrape the sides all the way around. Make sure I get everything that's on the sides incorporated, and then stir some more. I'll just keep doing this for a few minutes till I feel like it's mixed up very well. And yes, this does incorporate some bubbles. I don't know if you can see that, but like I said, I'm going to use a pressure pot, so all the little bubbles will disappear in that stage. So again, I'm going to scrape the sides, and I'm just going around in a circle here, and then do the bottom, back and forth across the whole bottom one way, and then the other direction. And especially when you're using a small amount of resin this size, it doesn't take too much to get it mixed. So that's pretty good. And I mean, when I mix in the alcohol ink as well, it's going to mix some more. So I'm just gonna pick some ink, and I'll be back to show you that part. Okay, so I've picked my colors. I've got a dark green here. We're gonna make this the base color, and it's called avocado green, so I don't know what that is. We'll find out. And I'm gonna do sort of a little bit of a dirty pour, and this is a, what is it called? Creamy white, deeper white. And I'm just gonna put that on there and try and get some green swirls. So we'll see how that goes. So first of all, we're just gonna color the base color green. And I want a pretty good green, so that's 8 drops there. And let's see, and 8 drops is not gonna be enough. But as you can see, just mixing in the colors is mixing the resin more. So let's add some more green. Now a lot of people say, I've seen online, that if you're doing a dirty pour, you have to have opaque color as the base. And I don't know why. Well, we're gonna find out. That's getting better. Still pretty light. Let's add some more green in there. That's a lot of green. That's probably like 15 to 20 drops, I bet. Oh, we're starting to look good here. And again, I'm going to scrape the sides. Scrape off the stir stick. Get those colors in there as best we can. That looks pretty good. That's a nice transparent green. Clean off my stir stick. And now this is the dirty pour part. So I'm just going to add a few drops of white onto the top. Maybe. Oh, how about a big squirt? And then I'm going to start to pour, and hopefully it'll make some swirls and whatnot. Here we go. And what the idea is that because I'm not mixing the white in, it will create sort of swirls and whatnot. Yeah, that's why I have this protective little guy here, the tray. And every once in a while, I'm going to add a couple drops so you can continue to get that random kind of swirls and whatnot in there. Okay, and this is the last one. And I don't think you can see, but I can see streaks of the white going in there, and hopefully that doesn't mix. And as you can see, there's a little bit left in the bottom here, and what I like to do is I like to just leave that. Let's just clean that up a little bit. And let it cure in there, and then I'll end up with a little color chip that will let me know what these are made of and whatnot. Now these will go into a pressure pot, which I will reposition the camera and show you and explain why we do that. So this is my pressure pot, and it's just a modified paint pressure pot that I've changed the input and taken off the dip tube. And I'm just going to place these guys in here, evenly spaced and level. And the reason we do this is that if I put them under pressure, what that does is it shrinks the air bubbles down to a size where you can't see them. And so you end up with clear dice. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do is if you're going to pressure pot your dice, your molds, you want to, when you make your molds, you want to pressurize them as well. Because if you don't, there will be tiny air bubbles in the mold, and then when you pressurize them, it will push that resin into those holes or those bubbles, and you'll end up with some really funky dice. And maybe I'll show you that when we're done here. But now I just tighten this on, and we will go out to the garage. And I won't show you this part, but I will, with my air compressor, pressure these up to about 45 psi and let them cure overnight under pressure. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow morning, or I guess tomorrow afternoon. All right. Okay, well, it's now 24 hours later, and like I said, I leave a little bit in the bottom of this cup here. I mean, I didn't write anything down, but if I was keeping records, then I could number this and write the recipe, so to speak, down. So let's pull out one of these dice. So I took these from the pressure pot. They were in the pressure pot for the whole 24 hours. And now I'm just gonna push them out, and let's hope they turn out nice. Oh, that's pretty good. It's not as swirly as I had hoped, but it's still, that's a really nice looking dice. What do we got here? It's the D8. Let's try that one. You just gotta make sure you don't push a thumbnail or anything into the bottom, because then it weakens that, and when you go and make the dice, it will make a little dimple, or not a dimple, a bump on the bottom, which the way these are made is not going to hurt the dice. It just makes it take longer to finish, because now I would have to sand the bottom as well as where the sprue is from. Yeah, that's nicer. Okay, so here's the R6. And I just sort of grab it by the four sides there. and pull apart the top and push out the bottom. And they're interesting. It's kind of, actually, I kind of like that, actually. It's kind of like a planet. She's out. Again, it's kind of like a little planet. It's kind of cool. I kind of like it. Yeah, actually these turned out really good. I quite like them. Nice and shiny. And they got some good variation in them. All right. Well, there they are with the sprues on them. So I'm going to let these continue curing for another day. Because you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but they're still a little bit soft. So if we let them cure for another 24 hours, that gets nice and hard, and we'll make the finishing, getting the sprue off and whatnot, much easier, much cleaner. So, but yeah, quite like them. Okay, so I forgot to record me sanding off the sprues and finishing the dice, but here they are. These are the finished dice. Look at that. Look at how they roll, eh? This is the D4. Come on. That's awesome. Anyway, I'll show you a little close-up view of these. So, whoop, jeez. There they are. Got the gold numbers. See, we got some good marbling or swirling on these guys. They kind of look planet-like. I think they turned out really well. I'm quite happy with them. The gold numbering just sort of makes them really pop.